Mr. President.
Republican Leader.
Later this morning in Maryland, the President will try yet again to sell his namesake health care plan to an increasingly skeptical public. He'll claim that Americans will have lots and lots of options under Obamacare. Unfortunately, keeping the plan you have and like will not be an option for a great many Americans. And it must be frustrating for the President that folks seem to keep tuning out all this happy talk. It's not hard to see, frankly, why Americans aren't buying the spin. Over the past couple of years, I've participated in more than 50 healthcare town halls in my home state. I've met with healthcare professionals, doctors, and nurses. I've met with patients, and I've met with everyday Kentuckians, folks who are just concerned about providing health care for their families. Many of the Kentuckians I've met with are a lot more knowledgeable about Obamacare than the Washington intelligentsia might like to assume. In fact, more than a few of them seem to know more about the law than some of my colleagues who rammed it through Congress. And let's be clear, a person doesn't need a PhD to understand that a law that drives costs up rather than down is a bad deal. Kentuckians understand that the new government bureaucracies are less likely to lower costs and improve care than they are to just simply get in the way. And so it is for these and so many other reasons that Kentuckians and people right across this country are rightly concerned about Obamacare. 2 nights ago, I had another great opportunity to connect on this issue with Kentuckians via a teletown hall. And I'll tell you, the good people of my state are as concerned about this law as ever. One woman who participated said she thought she had been making it, but reports that she will now be forced to get a second job due in no small part to Obamacare. I've received more than 50,000 letters from constituents frustrated by Obamacare as well. Single parents want to know what they're supposed to do when their hours are cut. Families want to know why Washington is okay with their insurance premiums going up by double digits. Small business owners want to know how they're ever going to comply with more than 20,000 pages of regulations. They want to know how they're going to be able to keep their employees insured. Workforce is growing, businesses expanding, and far too often their doors open once this law comes online. One Kentuckian from Henderson wrote to tell me about the small trucking business she and her husband own. They've got 13 employees, and they've always provided insurance for all of them. But their agent recently told them their premiums will go up 100% increase in premiums. Here's what she wrote to me. We can't afford this, even if we raise the portion the employees pay. Then they wouldn't be able to afford it. That was the experience reported to me by a woman and her husband running a small business in Henderson. These are the utterly predictable consequences of a law rammed through by a Democratic majority over the objections of the American people early on a cold, dark Christmas Eve morning. Until a few brave Democrats join our United Republican Conference in voting to get rid of Obamacare and starting over with a real bipartisan reform, we're going to continue hearing the same heart-wrenching stories over and over and over again. We're going to keep seeing articles like the one that appeared earlier this week in Politico. It's titled, Obamacare, One Blow After Another. Obamacare, one blow after another. And I want to read the opening paragraph. The Obamacare that consumers will finally be able to sign up for next week, it says, is a long way from the health plan President Obama first pitched to the nation. Among other things, this story notes that millions of low-income Americans won't receive coverage. and a growing number of workers won't get to keep their employer-provided coverage. And just yesterday, we heard the District of Columbia's exchange hit a huge bump in the road just days before launch. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more stories of these types of problems popping up all across our country. Let's talk about premiums, too. A few weeks ago, one veteran at a town hall wanted to know how this law could possibly be free. This veteran said, "How could this possibly be free?" Of course, it's not free. He was right. And premiums are part of that story. Based on the administration's own data, along with some intrepid reporting, here's how much more a single 27-year-old can expect to pay under Obamacare in Columbus, Ohio. 436% increase for a 27-year-old under Obamacare in Columbus, Ohio. In Charlotte, North Carolina, it's 523%. Little Rock, 613% more. 613%. Imagine for a moment, you're 27, you've done everything right, you've studied hard, graduated from college, you've got student loan debt, car payments, car insurance payments, utility bills, rent, renter's insurance, 401k contributions, health insurance, of course. Then there's gas, food, and maybe, just maybe occasionally, having a little bit of fun. And then you lose your employer-sponsored health plans thanks to Obamacare. You get dumped into the exchanges. So jack up those monthly health insurance payments by 300, 500, even 600%. What are you supposed to do now? Go uninsured and pay penalty taxes? Stop contributing to your retirement account? You can't very well give up the car you need to get to work, or food, or paying back your student loans. One of these is a good option, Mr. President. And they're not good for our society either. We shouldn't be setting up disincentives for 27-year-olds to insure themselves or contribute to their own retirement. But this is just the incentive structure that Obamacare creates. And when you consider how hard the Obama economy has hammered millennials already, it's hardly fair to whack them again, especially when so many are just barely hanging on as it is. So this law is a mess. It needs to go. It's way past time to start over. And as I've been saying all week, we need just 5 brave Democrats to join us to make that happen. So I hope some of our Democratic friends who voted for this law will look themselves in the mirror and think, truly think, about whether protecting the president's pride is really more important than helping the American people. Because we owe our constituents better than Obamacare. We can do better than this. And with your help, we can do that. With your help, we can start over with the kind of real bipartisan reform that Kentuckians and Americans are actually hoping for. Mr. President, I yield the floor.